Hello, welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Want to take time to thank Jake and Ryan over at Patriot Patch Company, patriotpatch.co, for their bandwidth sponsorship of this fine program. Yes, my definition of fine is rather liberal. So
that's a dirty word.
No, I'm not speaking politics. Anyway, also want to take time to thank Sean and the gang over at Firearms Radio Network for giving us a place to hang out every week. So, what's everybody been up to?
Let's not all speak at once, huh?
Well, Sharonda's moving.
Yes.
Jason's probably painting.
I'm moving.
Travis is busy destroying his gun before he's supposed to go shoot a competition this weekend.
That looks like aluminum, Travis.
Yes.
I worked all week.
The receiver of that shotgun is aluminum, right?
Correct.
Okay.
We're not sure what Jim did. So, Jim, what'd you do?
Basically, I spent the weekend reading my newest issue of Hand Loader Magazine and Rifle Magazine.
Aha.
Read a real good article from Rick Jameson about testing with a micro tester, testing brass hardness. And he puts forth a pretty interesting idea about the concept that brass, as you shoot it, continually hardens. Mm-hmm. Hence, split necks, split cases, split case walls, that sort of thing. And that also precipitates the need for, what else, Travis? Annealing, right?
Yeah, you been doing any of it lately?
No, I haven't.
I'll see. There you go.
I was talking to a few people about 2A stuff, but that's every day with me. How about you, Mike? What'd you do this week?
I worked.
You worked?
Yeah.
At Cabela's too?
Yep.
Jason, you rascal. Unmute your microphone. Tell me what you did in guns and reloading and ammunition this week.
I talked to some people about guns.
Really? How thrilling.
I sold a crap ton of guns. And I sold a crap ton of guns.
Somebody got you. Good. Mike, highlight Craig Vaughn's comment, please. Craig Vaughn put up the comment, public service announcement. Do not cast projectiles in shorts and flip-flops.
Noted.
All right. That's a very good idea. Stay away from that kind of stuff when you're pouring hot lead into a mold.
Most of the time it works fine. Just occasionally something bad happens.
Yeah.
Right. Oh my God, he's got 4 eyes.
Can't read.
Well, we knew that.
Getting out there.
Bad ideas. All right. So. Hang on a second here.
What is that in your background, Sharanda? Looks like
I'm sitting in the U-Haul truck cooling off, and this is the seat and the sign.
Okay. I just saw the text moving, and it's like, what in the world is that?
Oh, so that's my little big brother loading the truck. Say hi, little big brother.
Hey, hi.
He's the baby, but he's bigger than everybody.
Wow, did you see that Jason looked smarter there for about 20 seconds?
I didn't know that was possible.
Travis, you don't even understand the words you just said.
You might have to call Steve, Mike.
Nope. Nope, we're all good. So they're not gonna. Well, hang on a second here.
Can I tell you guys that I miss all y'all, like the fun cousins that come over during the summertime and y'all get in trouble?
Well, believe it or not, your absence is noted too. But you knew that.
Operations Hands Den that's coming to an end.
Operation Handstand.
Hens, Hens, Den. I don't do shit. I do Hens Den.
There you go. All right.
Well, while you're doing whatever you're doing there, Mike, I'll talk about what I did real quick.
Yeah.
So, as you guys, I've been telling you, I'm going to a match here. I'm leaving Thursday night. Be shooting Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I've got all my 223 and 9mm loaded up. I've trying to get a 5-gallon bucket of 12 gauge loaded. I've got just over half a 5-gallon bucket, so I'll finish that up tomorrow. Got all my guns cleaned. Right now, as I'm on the podcast, I'm opening the loading port on my shotgun. Or I should say I did that at midnight last night with in the garage, and now I'm just polishing it up, getting that ready. I did shoot a 3-gun match Saturday. I just need to finish editing that, and then I'll get that posted for you guys. After the discovery of what I was doing wrong with wet tumbling, Idaho Rogers called me up, told me to come on over, and he had a little something for me there to try out. Sitting on my bench over there is a unopened box from him, the new Frankfurt Arsenal media separator. Told me make sure I use it. I run some brass, pull it out right after I get it done cleaning. So as soon as I get some more brass sorted out, I'm going to do that. And I'll let you guys know how, my process went this time. But I am going to pull it out right after I get it clean. So hopefully that solves my problem. So
Thanks for making us spend more money, Travis. Where's Chris Sharp at?
I don't see him in the comments. So
Hi, this is Steve. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I might have to run and get some earbuds real quick. You good?
Yep.
Okay.
So who's ready to talk about the 6mm arc?
You're trying to chase off listeners, are you?
One of my top topics right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot one. Howdy, Will.
Hello, Will. We can see you.
How's it going, everybody?
There we go.
Yep, I had it muted. So, yeah, Steve's been busy working on 6mm arc dies. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's one that's definitely come up quick. So
Yeah, I talked to Idaho Rogers about this the other day. He's not a big fan of it. He's against it. But we're looking at it at two different viewpoints. And I see his side and he sees my side. So his side is he doesn't think it's a good cartridge to, get rid of 5.56, give to our soldiers and have them using that I'm not looking at it like that though. I'm just looking at it as a recreation shooter. And to me, out of all of these that have come out, the 224 Valkyrie, the 350 Legend, 300 Blackout, all of these, this is the one that I'm wanting to look at. In the comments, I'm laughing because everybody in the comments is saying the same thing. No use for it, don't care for it. But I say, for me, it's one that I want to get into. I'm not going to jump on it until, just like the 224 Valkyrie, everyone who jumped on that right away kind of got disappointed, in my opinion. So I'll sit back for a little bit, but I think that's going to be one that I at least, get a barrel and some other stuff for. What do you guys think? Jason?
I have no opinion.
Okay, so Will, what do you think of it?
I mean, I think it's interesting. I haven't had a lot of time to look too much at it. For an AR-15 based cartridge, from just the 5 minutes of specs that I looked over it, what was it, Thursday when they released it? It looked, the marketing material looked good, which marketing material is supposed to look good. I think it'd be fun to play with an AR-15. I have a 6x45, so I've got that thing. The twist rate is 1 in 7.5, so it can shoot heavy bullets. But heck, a couple hundred extra feet per second over a 6x45 for a youth deer rifle or something like that it gets my interest.
Yeah, for me, it wouldn't be one that I would look for. There would be others I would look at if I was using a bolt action, but
sure,
to having the AR, it's one that I'm interested in. So just for the listeners, this is all just off the top of my head. I don't remember exactly, but I know Hornady's coming out with 3 offerings. Their black line, which I think is a 105 grain boat tail hollow point, I believe. And that's kind of designed for the AR. I believe it's traveling at 2750 foot per second. Next, they're going to have their precision, and I believe that is a 103 ELD. I think that's traveling about the same, 2750. And then they're going to have their precision, which is their hunting line. That one off the top of my head, I can't remember which bullet they're going with, but they're coming out with the 3 lines right off the bat for us. And of course it's a 6 mil. So there's other, for us reloaders, you can use any 6 mil projectile. We can kind of cater them to what we're looking at. I think it has 54% less recoil than a 308. If I remember, I was watching Hornady's thing last night, and it's just things I'm just rambling off the top of my head, but all fits into an AR. You don't have to go into an AR-10. Just stay with your small framed AR-15. Good to go. And apparently you guys are coming out with some dies for it, right?
Yeah, so we started once we saw the announcement in the Outdoor Wire. Steve's been on it. Get those set up in our system and just go from there. So it's kind of one of those things where we're making as many dies as we can right now, just with the way the market is, and we'll find a time to fit them in the next couple months. So, but we're going to have them set up in the system and get them offered, and a lot of it depends on kind of how the market responds and tells us if we need to get them out sooner or keep on getting the dies and stuff out that we have on back order. So
it's unrelated, but I find it very interesting you guys getting crushed with the orders for reloading equipment. I find it very interesting.
Oh yeah,
I know it's great for business, and that's where we'll steer the conversation. But I just find it very, very interesting.
Yep. Heck, pretty much since the pandemic started, it's been nonstop, and we've had to. Like every other manufacturer, we've had to look at how shifts are running in the factory and what we can. I mean, Steve's actually out in California, so he's been seeing it every day, and we haven't been able to run shifts for a couple weeks. Then run them for a couple weeks, and just the whole supply chain that's messed up right now, getting raw materials and everything else.
Oh yeah.
It's every industry's seeing it. So.
All right. So yeah, the six arc is an interesting cartridge. It's definitely one of those. I think it's good. My personal opinion, I think it's going to be a lot like the Valkyrie and the 2545 Sharps, where it's kind of a niche cartridge, and it'll have its uses, but I don't know if it's gonna. I mean, it's got a better shot than those two because it's got. I mean, the Valkyrie had federal backing, but this one's got Hornady and a few others, plus the military contract to go with it. So I think this one's probably going to have a little bit better set of legs. The one thing I was looking at, hand load, it goes subsonic somewhere around 900, somewhere between 900 and 1,000 yards. It's still decent out to 1,200. But what I was looking at when we were looking at that, I'm looking at the specs and I'm figuring we start hand loading for that puppy. You can keep that supersonic to at least 1,000, if not longer. And then, it's, AR-15 1,000-yard cartridge, or if it's bolt gun, then, it's another maybe F-class cartridge. So, but unlike trying to shoot a 223 to 1,000, which can be done, this looks like it's probably getting a little more practical. So, but
Yeah, time will tell.
yep. Speaking of time, so my first question for you gentlemen is, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Sure. So my name is Will. I'm the senior product manager for RCBS. So I've been with RCBS now working on the brand for 2.5, 3 years. Before that, I worked on Butler Creek and Champion. Before that, I was with Midway USA for about 7 years. I've been reloading and everything from shot shell to cast my own bullets since about age 9. So about 25 years of hand loading, and learned in the basement. And Dad pretty much said, whatever you load, you can shoot. So he had to buy a lot of primers and shot and powder and wads, and we did a lot of shooting because I did a lot of loading. So it's kind of my backstory.
Sorry, you guys just caught my lab barking. So, well, my name's Steve Coach. I've been a product designer, R&D engineer, and product manager for RCBS for 42 years now. It's started as a hobby that became quite a passion, and still is a passion to this day. Pretty much hit every aspect of the product line in RCBS. It's been fun and still a lot of fun.
Saying goes, if you love your job, you never work a day in your life.
Correct.
That is until I came on board, and been a thorn in his side ever since.
Yeah.
So tell us about RCBS. How did RCBS come into being? Give us kind of the history and the background of RCBS.
Well, Fred Huntington started RCBS back in 1943. He had a passion for shooting. He had a passion for shooting varmints. And back then there was just no good bullets. Ammunition was scarce. And he pretty much went out and made his own dies to swage 22 caliber bullets out of rimfire cases. He started out in the back of his father's laundry. His dad had an old lathe back there, and he turned dies out of axles, and it kind of evolved from there to where he had to move his shop. And so his first shop was actually a 20 by 20 shop, which we have a picture of at the plant that is quite amazing. 4 guys standing very close together. And I found out later, about a year ago, that there was a hole in the wall so they could feed the bars stock through. That's how small this place was. That was 1948-ish. A couple of years after that, he built a 30 by 60 shop next to that one. And you can kind of see the evolution here, that the business just kept growing and growing and growing. And I mean, he ventured out into presses, reloading dies, other things like that, you know, along the reloading lines. And that in 58, he built the plant at its current location. And at that time, it was 7,500 square feet. And we're at 110,000 today. And that's all manufacturing. I mean, very little shipping area, but most of it's manufacturing area.
That's quite the growth story. So
It's a pretty cool story when you look into it.
it is. That's kind of one of my favorite things about being in this is finding out the stories of how it, you know, it started from most of the large companies nowadays all started from one person who is loading for themselves and then started building their own equipment, and then it started taking off. So, and
and that's, I mean, you look at all the guys from way back when I started. I mean, that's how a lot of this happened. And you look at the ingenuity of it, and it's just amazing to me still to this day. Those were some very smart people.
You mentioned using axle steel for dies. I can understand why, because it's very, very good steel.
It's good steel. It's hard. You don't have to do a lot with it if you can machine it.
You got to know how. That's for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think as you were speaking of like the ingenuity of things, Steve, I think it was pretty cool when I was out there, a couple of years ago, and somebody had brought over a box of, some of the original bullet swaging equipment. And everybody just in awe with how that whole system worked, and just getting all those parts to some of that old product that had been lost for a while.
Well, Will, you look at that stuff that we have down there, and it's pretty easy to go to the store, grab a box of bullets, and load. When you look at what these people had to go through to get a quality at that time, is just amazing. And I have some of Fred's original Swage bullets, and they still have a C on the bottom of them from the CCI rimfire cartridges. It's quite amazing, actually.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I have some of those bullets that I made myself, but I didn't do it with Fred Huntington's equipment. I ordered my stuff from Corbin up in Oregon.
Corbin makes good stuff.
Yes, sir. And I just about wore my Mini 14 out shooting those brass jacketed bullets.
So I've got a few questions. So Steve, since you've been there, a couple days, what's your impression of the evolution of reloading from when you started to now? I know it's still growing and growing, but I mean, as far as what your impressions are on what the big changes you've seen.
Well, being on the design side of it, when I first started loading, even before I was at RCBS, it seemed kind of complex to me, which a lot of people do get that complexity in there, and that's not that difficult. The big thing I saw going forward was to be honest, we got real lazy. It was like, who likes trimming cases? You know, who likes loading one at a time? And that's where a lot of our products evolved, like power case trimmers. Let's make this simple. Let's put on 3-way cutters. Let's, you know, cut steps out of this process. Let's put them on 7-station progressives and get a loaded round every pull of the handle. That's where I've seen the big evolution is, you know, when I started out, it, like most everybody, you had single stage presses, you had hand crank case trimmers. I think it's just evolved to a point that we've made it a lot easier to do.
Okay. So let's talk about some of your new stuff that's either out or coming out. The first thing I want to talk about is the Matchmaster. I guess kind of the big questions that I get asked about it is first, why? And second, what are the advantages of that over, you know, even just the Chargemaster?
Sure. So, I mean, the biggest reason for why, I mean, you have to kind of look at the market that the Matchmaster was made for. So, I mean, it's made for the PRS type competitor, the ultra long range guy, that really big, we must call him like the super enthusiast, the guy that can go out and spend, but is not afraid to spend a lot of money on the reloading equipment. And we took kind of the best possible equipment and everything else that we could put in to hit that price point and put it in that unit. So, I mean, whenever we created it, we knew that it wasn't going to be, that product isn't going to be useful for 90% of the reloaders out there. And that was one of those things where when we were going through the product development process, I mean, we knew that it wasn't going to be for everybody. And I mean, if we could bring it down in price, we would, but honestly, we're in the business of selling reloading equipment, and I mean, we have shareholders we have to account for. So, I mean, the reason we brought it out was to be the best RCBS powder dispenser that we've ever made. I mean, some of the differences between it and the regular Chargemaster, I mean, the biggest one is the load cell. It's a lot more accurate and precise load cell. It's what's in the Chargemaster. So it goes down to 407 grain accuracy. So a lot of those powders are about 407 grain. There's a few that are a little less. So it'll measure down to a kernel so you can get as much extreme spread and out of your loads as possible. So, you know, every round is as consistent as you can make it with that powder charge. Did I leave anything out, Steve?
Yep.
So what was the development process like for it?
Oh man, that was, so I mean, we had that on the product roadmap, that particular product for, I mean, it was before my time. So I mean, the last 2.5 years, I was working hand in hand with kind of our R&D engineers before that. They were working with the factory that's made all of our powder dispensers for like the past 20 years or so. We kind of knew what our specs were. We sent it over, and it took, I mean, that development on that took a couple years to find the right type of load cell that was going to deliver that accuracy potential. I mean, it took a couple of trips over to the factory to work on and get some of those kinks worked out. They had a couple of their engineers over here for a month and a half, 2 months working on getting it across the finish line. So, I mean, there was a lot of back and forth with the factory, with our engineers, with their engineers to make sure that it was going to be the most consistent and most accurate powder dispenser that we've ever made. Okay.
Speaking of powder dispensers, Uniflow 3. What'd you upgrade? What did you feel that you needed to upgrade? I guess because usually when somebody comes out with, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. So I mean,
yep, go ahead.
I'm gonna say really the biggest upgrade of the Uniflow 3 is the ability for the rotor and meter and assembly to work with both handgun and rifles. So one rotor and one meter and assembly will meter out, I think it's a half a grain to 95 grains. So you don't have to swap for a rifle rotor and a rifle meter and assembly. The same one will do everything at the same time. I mean, it's a lot easier to put that rotor and meter and assembly in there. With the old one, you had to drop it down through the top and kind of get the screw on. And then we have a screw on hopper also. So versus that Preston, so you can unscrew the hopper to get to everything and clean it and keep it clean. What else we got? We have machine reference surfaces, so I know that, I mean, really, that thing is the tightest Uniflow we've ever made.
I find it kind of hard to beat the Uniflow I've had for 25, 30 years, 40 years.
Sure. I mean, yeah. The
But
Uniflow,
you described that problem with the rotor, taking the adjustment system in and out. Yeah, it's a bit of a pain in the neck. It took me a while to figure it out, but hey, that's what I do for a living.
sure.
Sharenda, you got a question.
Poor
I
thing.
was just now connected. I was just curious. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just curious. Have you guys noticed an increase in more interest from women with reloading, especially since we're starting to see more competitive shooters, more women hunting, more trap shooters? Just curious.
I mean, I'd say from the trade shows we've been to the past years, year, 18 months, I mean, there are quite a few more women coming up and asking questions. I don't know if it's because their significant others more interested in reloading and they're afraid to ask questions. We see that from time to time. But I mean, we go to a number of the PRS events every year, and there is quite a bit of increase in participation from women and young ladies at those events. And I mean, if you're doing any type of that long range shooting to get the most accuracy out of your equipment, you're going to end up hand loading eventually. So I think that has to do with some of that increase.
It has increased quite a bit over the last 2 or 3 years, like Will was saying at the trade shows. It really has picked up. And I have a lot of youth female shooters that are in like the Camp Perry type stuff coming and asking questions. And that's increased over the last 2 or 3 years also.
Women drive our market. That's good.
Absolutely.
So one last question about the Matchmaster. Do you have a trade-in program for somebody who has a Chargemaster or a Chargemaster Lite and wants to step up to the Matchmaster?
Currently, we don't. I mean, we are looking at. That idea was tossed around a few times. I mean, we look at all different types of ideas, and I wouldn't be surprised for us to come out with something in the future for promotion with the Matchmaster on a trade-in type program. But currently, we do not have anything.
Okay. So my next question, talk to me about the Rebel Press.
The Rebel Press.
I'll let Steve jump in on that one. He designed the whole thing.
That's our latest offering in the single stage arena. It's bigger, beefier than the Rock Chucker. I mean, it's heavier. It's got a bigger footprint. We've taken just a lot of the things we've done over the last few years. There's no on-press priming. It's got a flat platen, where the shell holder and the ram comes up through. It's bigger window opening. It's got a longer stroke. And we've done the same thing we did with the UPM3 because we've machined all the reference surfaces where parts are interfacing with each other. So it's a really nice press. It's a good, stable, solid reloading press. But it's the next offering in the single stage line.
So is that going to be your only offering then?
No.
Okay. So it's just an addition to, you're not removing anything that's already out there.
Correct.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. That I know there's a lot of fans of the current presses you've got. Sorry about that. So, any idea when that's coming out?
We are actually machining and assembling Rebel presses. We were today.
Okay.
So we are in the process of getting we have presses. We're getting them off. We're assembling. We're doing our due diligence on the quality checks and the testing. Hopefully be packaging presses by the end of the week.
Okay. Now are you going to be just doing the presses first and then bringing the kits out later? Because I see you've got a couple of kits that you've got planned for the Rebel as well.
Actually, they all go in the same insert, so we're going to split them up across the board.
Okay.
We'll get some presses out. We'll get some kits out, so they can kind of work hand in hand.
Okay. Yeah, I saw the kits, and that's kind of a nice setup you got for both of those, where you've got the Rebel Master and the Rebel Plus. So the most important thing, and I think with both of those, since you don't have on priming presses or on priming on the press anymore, is they both do come with the hand primer. So that's a nice setup.
Correct.
And I'd say that's one of the biggest things that we have seen. A lot of the feedback we get from folks at different shows and events is nobody really uses the on-press priming anymore. Everybody's moving to a hand priming tool or bench mounted priming tool. So it's like, why waste the extra? Why charge people to have us machine that in and include that part when everybody's moving to a hand priming tool or a bench mounted priming tool anyway?
And that is one of the evolutions of the industry. And that one's probably huge because hand priming tools have become very popular.
And the prices of the website are going to be what they're going to be, right? So Rebel, the press is going to be $269.
Yes.
And then a couple of kits, the Rebel Masters $488.95, and then the Rebel Plus is $649. Excellent. Those are some nice prices on those.
I can vouch for the off-press priming system. That's one of the first things I do is move to an off-press priming system.
Same here. I honestly don't prime on press. So I see another thing. I stopped by the booth at SHOT Show and saw some of the stuff that's coming out. And one of the things that caught my eye is the new scale. Not the Matchmaster, but the pocket scale.
Yep. So yeah, with the new pocket scale, I mean, we have the new kits coming out, so we wanted to go find the kind of the best pocket scale that we could find to put in the kit and keep a competitive price point on it. New pocket scale is accurate to 1,500 grains, tenth of a grain accurate through the 200 grain window, and then 2/10 to 1,000, and 3/10 from 1,000 to 1,500. The ones we're getting now are, I mean, they're pretty reliable, and I mean, we had a couple come in the last couple of weeks, and out of the batch that we just tested, all of them passed all of our windows and accuracy and repeatability. So first they're filling in the presses, then after that we'll be filling in those the single units. So it's pretty much the first individual pocket scale that we've offered as a company.
I look forward to getting my hands on it. So that's kind of one of the things that I like playing around with is I've got a whole bunch of scales. So I like playing around with a bunch of different ones. So
yeah.
But yeah, definitely look forward to when that comes out. So let's see here. Sorry, I'm having browser issues tonight, so I've got my show notes on the phone. So what's next? If you can talk about anything.
I mean, really, the big stuff that we've been working on, lately is just filling back orders. I mean, just the way that the industry's gone in the past 2-3 months has gotten kind of everybody just focused on getting as much product out as possible and shipping everything as possible. I know a couple weeks ago, I mean, they had everybody from the plant manager to production planners, buyers, everybody in the factory was down there assembling products and just getting everything out that we can. I know a couple days. I mean, Steve, I think he was putting together hand priming tools, and I mean,
Yeah.
it's been difficult to get stuff built, just with the difficulties in the supply chain and everything else. So, I mean, that's really what we've been focusing on the past. I'd say when the plant opened back up, Steve, it was what, a month ago, maybe month and a half.
It actually isn't completely opened. We were able to bring people back a month ago, so we still don't have everyone back. We're still filling with temps, and me and Johnny and James and the rest of us doing what we can.
Yep.
A lot of us didn't realize you guys got hammered by the pandemic.
Yeah.
Got shut down, did you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, making ammunition is essential.
Well,
Oh, absolutely.
that's when they let us open up. We were grandfathered into the gun industry, the gun stores, so RCBS was able to open before you guys were even able. Well, I think you guys are still shut down, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm still working from home most of the time, so haven't heard when I get to go back to the office, but sneak in there every once in a while. So clean up the mail and ship stuff out. So
Yeah. So when we're talking about RCBS, first thing comes to mind is dies. Second thing comes to mind is, obviously the rock chucker and your single stage. But you have a couple of progressive presses too. Let's talk about those.
The Pro Chuckers,
Yeah.
5 and 7. Pro Chucker 7. The Pro Chucker was essentially designed as a 7-station press, and as time went on, it got converted to a 5-station because that is kind of where a lot of people like to be. Fantastic presses, really simple. That's another progression of this industry, that you've gone from complex progressive presses to real simple progressive presses. Simple indexing, simple priming, changeovers real easy, die plates come in and out. They're a lot of fun to load on.
So I have a question from one of the listeners. They want to know, do you do custom dies?
We at present do not do custom dies. We currently do not.
yeah, that was one of those things that, I mean, before I came on, I mean, somebody looked at it and said, you know what, we're not good at making custom dies. We can't keep track of them. And it was one of those things that was very difficult for our company that's good at doing big runs of dies. I mean, a couple 100-piece runs of dies to pivot and do 1 or 2 dies. That is something that, I mean, Steve's very adamant on us figuring a way to get it back. I'm pretty adamant figuring a way to get it back. Our plant manager is pretty adamant on a way to figure out how we can manage that. But right now we're unable to do it.
You mean I can't get my
That is
22
one of those
slash?
things where we are actively trying to figure a way that.
You telling me that I can't get my special order of 22/3030 Ackley improved dice from my contender? Jiminy Crickets, you guys act like you've been busy.
Not from us.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm just pulling your tail. You know that.
But yeah, I know. Yeah, that's one of those things where, I mean, we did leave a void whenever we exited out of that business. And I mean, it upset quite a few people, and rightfully so, because they'd been coming to us to get those custom dies for quite a long time. So
Had it been known, I am one of the ones that it upset.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, so Would you guys talk about your warranty? I know I've had to use it a couple times, and I've been extremely happy with it.
We
Yeah.
have the best customer service in the world. I mean,
Amen.
you look at our warranty, it's limited lifetime now. It used to be unlimited. We don't really even blink at that. I mean, if you break something, you need something, our customer service staff is going to take care of it. Most of the time it's shipped out that day. They are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and I'd say they're also probably one of the most knowledgeable teams out there. I mean, they can troubleshoot. I mean, pretty much anything from anybody, anytime. I mean, all of them are very, very well versed in the technical side of hand loading, also. And they care. I mean, they care about the brand. They care about our customers, and they want to make everything right by them if they ever do have an issue.
I never really talked about it a whole lot. I mean, I mentioned my Uniflow, but I lost the powder drop tubes out of both of them when I moved a few years ago. Both my powder drop tubes, I couldn't find them. So I finally got disgusted, and I called RCBS up just to ask, how much I'll pay for it. Oh, well, I'm sorry, sir, it's covered under the warranty. You don't have to pay a thing. Just give me your address. 3 days later, I had 2 brand new drop tubes. 4 days later, after that, I found the old drop tubes. That's disgusting, but I gotta back up you guys on that one. I like your customer service. There's no two ways about it.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
So, I'm looking here. I thought I had another question. What's the line that you have that probably not a lot of people realize you do?
Whew.
Maybe it's not as promoted as, say, the powder dispensers and the dyes and the presses.
Well, that's a tough one.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Trying to think also, Steve.
I mean, you look at some of the case prep stuff, the 3-ways, the precision mics.
Yeah, I'd say probably between the that case prep, between like the Universal Case Prep Center, the 3-way cutters. I mean, the Brass Boss isn't as well known as the Trim Mate was. Then also those precision mics are a really good line also.
Talk about those precision mics.
Precision mic is a pretty handy little tool. We set them up so that you can check headspace, obviously, and then the other end is the free bore end, so you can measure close the free bore of the barrel in your rifle. And like I said, I say close. It'll get you close just because we use a generic, bullet shape. But they're pretty handy little tools. They're really good for setting up dies for kicking your headspace back a thou or two.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
I'd say one of the other questions we got quite a bit in the past was pretty much the difference between like the what dies we had were the best dies we have. So I mean, before about a year ago, we launched our new Matchmaster reloading dies, which I mean those are our top of the line dies. Now they replaced all the gold medal dies and the competition dies. We launched them just because we did have quite a bit of confusion, like I said, from the trade shows and just feedback in general on what dies were the best. So we took that opportunity to kind of consolidate the best-selling dies out of the competition line and the gold medal line into the Matchmaster line, and then go and add a few of the more popular up-and-coming long-range calibers, be it for, I mean, kind of the bigger cartridges, and then a lot of the PRS style and F-class style cartridges. So if you look in that line, you'll see things from what do we got? We've got 6 Dasher, 6XC, 300 PRC, 338 Lapua. I mean, there's 33 of those really popular long range cartridges in that line. I mean, to me, that's kind of one of those questions we still get quite a bit of is, hey, I can't find gold medal dies anymore. I can't find competition dies anymore. What happened? And it's like, well, we moved over all the really good selling ones that needed to stay in the line over to the Matchmaster line, and then we did a couple of different things on those dies. I mean, Steve worked really hard to come up with that new thimble design is, I mean, it's night and day better than the old competition gold medal. We've got really bright anodizing on that material, and then we've invested in a couple different laser machines, laser engravers, at the factory, so we're getting really bright, really good contrast. So you can really see the different micrometer numbers on there. We also played with quite a few different coatings on the expander that comes in the sizing die on there. So we actually settled on, it's what, a carbonitride.
It's a titanium carbonitride, TICN.
So, I mean, and I think we found gives about 22% reduction in force when you're running the case neck back over that expander. So it takes quite a bit less force than just a regular uncoated expander and just all the other coatings that we tried.
And the seat dies are fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, they have if you're not familiar with them, they have a bullet seating window where you can just drop the bullet in the window and it retains the bullet inside the die. So when you're running the cartridge up through the die, it eats the bullet, and you don't have to squish your fingers.
And they're all cartridge specific, not caliber. So
Nice.
it's got a good guiding system.
Yeah.
I have a question, if you don't mind, gents. Are you guys still making casting equipment?
Yes.
Any new developments in the pots? Any new development in the mold making and the molds themselves? I know I've used. I love the RCBS molds because I like the iron mold. They're a little heavy, but I like what they do for for casting.
Oh, they retain heat well,
Yes, sir.
and they'll cast consistently. We haven't done. There's not a lot of work been done
The
on
Pro
new
Melt
mold
Easy.
development. But go ahead, Will, on the pots. And
I was going to say, we released the Pro Melt and Easy Melt over those. Those were probably, what, 2.5, 3 years ago
yep,
when those came out. So, I mean, they've all digital temperature readouts and adjustability on them. And I wasn't really involved with a lot of that development. I don't know what all you were involved with it, Steve, but
yeah, I wasn't much at all. That was pretty much a sourcing thing.
yeah. But I mean, they work really well, and I mean, just having that digital readout and ability to adjust that temperature a little bit better with that digital. What's the word I'm looking for, Steve?
The readout.
Yep.
The PID controller.
Yeah, the PID controller.
Yeah.
$10 word. Yeah, that PID controller is. I mean, it makes a night and day difference over just the older version where you had to dial it and turn it on and just let it go.
Steve, we have a suggestion for you about the Pro Melt. This is just a suggestion. You might look into it. You might make a note. It comes from all the way down under. VEMGM. He suggested that you all consider putting a mold guide on the underneath the Pro Melt somehow or another. But we also realize too that would add some money to the cost of the Pro Melt.
We have mold guides on the Pro Melt.
Oh, okay. I didn't read it correctly. He said it needs a mold guide like NOE. Never mind.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Let me ask you two a real serious question now.
Okay.
Since Jim brought up casting,
Oh God, here we go.
what is both of your opinion on powder coating those cast projectiles?
I have very limited experience. 2 years ago, we did some. We shot them. Other projects took over. So my experience on that is very minimal.
And I'd say mine's less than Steve's. So I haven't messed with it at all.
There, Travis, enjoy.
But do you guys believe or think that powder coating is, it's basically new technology for us powder coaters, where before we had to use the old traditional wax lube or liquid A-LOX?
I couldn't say. Just
So
with the
I think what
limited
Travis
experience.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry about that, Steve. Didn't mean to talk over you. So I think what Travis is trying to get at, in his own Travis way, is RCBS considering making molds without lube groups?
Currently, no.
Okay.
Anything to promote powder coating, right, Travis?
Yeah, sorry guys. The little guy gets very upset these days when I'm down here without him. So he's Jason says he's my little brother. My little brother is down here with me, and he's not very happy that we're not reloading right now. So
Travis, can't you just drill your molds out to get rid of the lube grooves so you can play with your little powder toys?
There you go.
I say I buy all my molds come already
Oh, geez.
that design, so I don't need
Anyway.
to drill out my molds.
Okay. On the 9mm mold that's on the website, do you know how many cavities that is? Somebody's asking, and they said it's not specific.
Oh, I'm sorry. 9mm molds will be 2 cavities.
Okay. Thank you. What was the other question I was going to ask? On your bench mounted, the RCBS automatic priming tool, will those use the Dillon and or Hornaday primer tube feeders also?
The tube feeder?
Yeah, for the automatic priming tool.
Now the tubes will go in there, but
Right. Sorry,
Yeah.
the tubes.
yeah, the Hornaday tubes definitely will.
Okay.
The Dillon tubes they have the pickup on the opposite end, so they should work just fine.
Okay. That was from a question from a listener. So
Yeah, I know. Just for most listeners, I know pretty much mostly all the tubes are pretty much the same. The ends and stuff are a little bit different design, but the tubes themselves are basically all the same.
Yeah, the pickup end will be different, but they should be about the same diameter.
okay. Does RCBS offer molds with more than 2 cavities, or is that something they're looking at in the future? Maybe.
No, our molds are 2 cavity molds. We haven't pursued any larger molds for quite a while.
How about that 12 gauge shot shell setup? Where'd it go?
The Grand?
No, not the
die set?
for loading brass shot shells on the press. Where'd it go? The cowboy shot shell die.
Correct.
Have you gotten a lot of feedback on that?
Yeah, we do get a lot of feedback on that actually, and some positive, some negative, because we do actually put a crimp on it. But with black powder, you don't blow the crimp out. That's probably the number one complaint with that people need to understand that. Yeah, you need to kind of tuck that wad in there, but you're not really going to blow it out. But you can still load ammunition because we designed the expander mold to go inside of that anyhow.
So it'll take that crimp back out when you resize it?
It really doesn't, but we don't put enough crimp on it not to be able to put the components back into the case.
Oh, okay. Because honestly, that's that's kind of the first thing I've seen for being able to load brass shot shells. on an actual press, so versus loading them on a shot shell press.
And that die set's been out for quite a while too.
Yeah, so I thought that was neat. One of the other things that I kind of find interesting is your Berdan deprimer. How does that work?
It's essentially a hardened pin that has a set of jaws that goes over the rim, and it's pretty much a pry bar.
Okay.
To pop that old primer out.
Okay.
Let me ask you this then. Do you do anything about putting a central flash hole in the Berdan brass, or do
No.
they have to reprime with Berdan primers?
It's got to take Berdan primers.
Thank you, sir.
All right. We're going to see if anybody else had any other questions. What's the warranty on the RCBS molds?
It's the same unlimited or limited lifetime warranty.
Okay.
And someone's going to wear out a mold. I'd like to see it.
This is true. So.
I'm laughing because one of our YouTube listeners in the live chat, he's put up the question, is it MOLD or MOULD? That depends on how you spell the word, Chico. I spell it MOULD, and probably most folks spell it like mold stuff on the wall, MOLD.
Yeah. Add the U.
Amen. Add the U. Makes you look a little more literate.
There you go.
All right.
Unlike those powder coaters.
Oh, good grief. Stop that. So. Oh, Andy, one of our other listeners said, he said, cast with zinc and you might wear it out. So have you heard of a lot of people casting, using your molds, casting zinc?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I really haven't.
It's a newer thing. What really brought it about is the fact that they switched from lead to zinc for the wheel weights. So a lot of people were getting all these zinc wheel weights, and so instead of having nothing to do with them, somebody out there decided, well, let's see if this works. Turns out it does, and so they've been doing it. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. So what is the craziest question you've ever gotten, Steve? From somebody calling?
Oh, gosh.
Or the one that just sticks in your head?
You know, I get so many different questions that I don't know that I have one that is stuck in my head. I know the one thing I do enjoy doing at the trade shows is finding out who has the oldest press. And that's one of the things I enjoy doing. As far as the questions, I mean, I've heard some really off the wall stuff, but I like going and finding out. The guys that come up say, I have an old junior press. What year did you get it? You know, Shot Show this year it was a 1961. NRA last year was a 1958. So that's kind of, because I kind of latch onto the history. So that's a lot of fun for me.
I think one of my favorite ones was when somebody asked Steve to come home with them and set up the press at NRA show a couple of years
ago.
Okay,
well, we're not going to go into that. I do believe I was set up.
Yeah. Good story.
Yeah, it was fun.
So one of the other questions that I get is, why was the 1010 scale taken out and replaced?
Pretty much we were revamping the entire scale line.
Okay.
So the 1010, the 502, and the 505 were all eliminated when we brought that production in-house.
Okay.
Those were pretty much O-house scales. We decided we were going to do it ourselves and moved on.
Okay.
I have a 1010. I had bought it back in about 1979, 1980. And I knew when I bought it, it was made by O-House. But it's still fabulous scale.
I actually had a question yesterday from a customer on a 1010. Why don't you offer it?
I can't disagree, but I don't need one. That's probably
Correct.
that is probably why y'all don't sell a whole lot of 1010s, because they last forever.
Yeah, like most of our stuff.
Yes, sir. Y'all make some good stuff.
Thank you.
Last question, and then I'll cut you guys loose here. Is RCBS planning on offering any other precision trickling scales after the latest 2 tube versions?
I mean, we're always working on different innovations with things. I mean, there'll probably be something come out in the next 12 months or so. That'll be an improvement over some of our current stuff, but again, we're still in the development phases on those things. So
Okay.
can't really divulge too much on it. Just
Right.
we're always working on new products and improving stuff we have. So,
And that goes across the entire product line.
yeah.
We don't sit still. I mean, when it comes to dies, presses, whatever, we're evolving every day.
Yeah.
You have to in this industry, especially now.
Yes,
Oh,
you do.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, well, I thank you very much for taking some time out to join us this evening. Glad we were finally able to get you on.
Absolutely.
And you're welcome back anytime you got something new to talk about. Just hit me up on email and we'll get you on.
Sounds good.
So
Alrighty.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Thank you.
thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate
Thank
you
you,
joining
gentlemen.
us.
Thank you.
Oh my, the 3 horsemen, the 3 musketeers.
All right. There we go.
Actually, I can answer Idaho Rogers' question, if you don't mind, Mike. This
Yeah.
is a question from the YouTube chat, folks. And I'll read it. It's from Idaho Rogers, USMC. He asked, will RCBS ever go into bullets or brass products? Well, you got to remember, Idaho, that RCBS is only part of a corporation. They're actually amalgamated to a certain extent with Spear. If they did that, they would be actually competing against themselves. You know, Spear makes good bullets, great bullets. Some of the best groups I've ever printed were done with Spear bullets. Like that group I brag about, 3/4 of an inch, 300 yards. That was done with a Spear manufactured Federal Deer Thug 162 grain bullet that was actually designed to be loaded into ammunition. But I managed to get a hold of some surplus bullets. So that's kind of why they don't get into bullets, at least. And I don't know if CCI makes brass. So again, that's part of the family. I forget what they call it. Omark, or what's the corporate name for RCBS that they work under, guys? Mike, you're muted. Mike, your microphone is muted.
Yeah, I know. You said I'm muted and I was on a different screen. So I said, that's no good.
What's the corporate name that RCBS works under?
Vista Outdoors.
That's it. So they wouldn't be competing against, they wouldn't want to compete against our CCI or Spear. At least that's what I think. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, I'm pulling that up to let everybody know that every brand they've got.
Yeah, Vista Outdoors sounds right.
It is. So Vista Outdoors is Bushnell, Weaver, Simmons, Millet, Tasco, Primos. Gold TP, Bee Stinger, Blackhawk, RCBS, Champion, Butler Creek, Uncle Mike's, Eagle, Hops, Gunslick, Outers, Federal, CCI, Spear, Alliant, Blazer, Estate Cartridge, Camp Chef, Camelback, M Pro 7, Giro, Bell, Blackburn, Copilot for you Aussies, Rascals, Crash, Gunmate, Redfield, Independence, Fusion, American Eagle, and Force. So there's a lot of stuff in there. Typically for brass, more often than not, it's under the Federal brand or the Blazer brand. So they don't really, they're not going to really get serious about making a RCBS brand. So
No, they wouldn't compete like that.
yeah. So, but yeah, they've got a huge selection, so it's always fun to stop by their booths, whether it's at SHOT or NRA. So, I heard a rumor today. I don't know if it's confirmed or not. I'm going to try and find out details for next week's show. They are planning an NRA meeting in September, first weekend in September, in Missouri somewhere, Missouri. I think St. Louis, but I don't know if it's going to be the annual meetings, like the whole big event with the trade show and everything, or if it's just going to be for members. So, but when I find out, I will let everybody know. But yeah, so it was awesome having them on. I'm glad we were finally able to, and thanks to Sharenda for helping pull that off. So,
well, you gotta hand it to the girl. She's out there breaking her tail, moving stuff, and she's trying to take and show her face on broadcast for at least a few minutes.
Yeah,
that's dedication.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Don't know anybody else that's that dedicated, do you, Mike?
Nope.
One of them's got a beard. I'm sorry, a Fu Manchu that he hasn't trimmed up in the last 6 weeks.
I'm not dedicated. I just got nothing else to do Tuesday at 5 p.m.
You lying sack of shit.
Oh, good grief. So
never mind the fact that you actually, I know for a fact that you actually cut out work sometimes just to be here on time. Thank you, Jason.
Well, that's just an excuse to get out of work. I hate working.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So Lakeview Outdoors said nothing against RCBS. I have quite a few of their products, but I just ordered a Frankfurt Arsenal Universal Seating Die Kit. I saw that at SHOT Show, and that's pretty darn awesome. I kind of want one. So, but
what was that comment Paradox 12B put up? Something about somebody asked him, can he ever get a 50 caliber BMG case neck down to 224? There it is. Paradox 12B said the craziest question for him was, can I get a 50 BMG neck down to 224? And he said to that person, you should stop reloading if you think that's a valid question. I think that's hilarious.
It is hilarious. But you know what? Somebody's going to do it, and somebody wants to do it. That's the point.
And it wouldn't take much. All you got to do is anneal your brass, keep annealing it, and thin it down until you get it down, neck it down.
Yep.
I know how. I'm just not going to.
So, well, that's all I got for tonight, gentlemen. Anybody got a shout out for anything?
Yeah. John Schotter. He knows who he is.
Yep, I know who he is too.
Yep.
I talked to him last couple of days, so
okay.
Eventually,
good.
I'm getting him on the podcast.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think you'll find that he puts together a pretty good product.
Yep. So, Jason.
Thanks for joining us again, Joe Gomez, and Terry Dillashaw called me this week, so I got to catch up with him a little bit. It was good hearing from him.
Yeah,
So shout out to you guys.
sounds
I,
good.
I just realized behind your left ear, Jason, I see a strange looking green machine.
You just
Yeah.
noticed that was there? It's been there
No,
for
I've been there
years.
for years. So I didn't know if Jason wanted to make him show it off. He's got himself an RCBS single stage press back there behind him.
There's one here, and there's one in the barn.
Nice. Nice.
And I gave one to Dusty when he first started reloading. I gave him one.
Gave him one. That's quite a gift. Yeah, it's like the old saying: you got to feed a man, you feed him for a day. Give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teaching a fish, you feed him forever.
Mm-hmm.
Teach him how to fish, and he learns how to drink beer all day.
Tell lies.
Oh, good grief. So, yeah, just awesome to have him on. It's nice to have him confirm that that's what the idea behind the Matchmaster was for that upper echelon reloader, not.
Just hope we didn't make him too nervous with our casual free-for-all behavior.
Oh, no.
Hopefully you warned him ahead of time how rough we can get.
We didn't get rough. So,
Not
at
tonight.
any rate, I think that's about it for tonight, gentlemen. So, Fat Elvis, you're going to have to write him and send him in to me. He wants us to give a reloading joke every night, and I don't have a reloading joke. So somebody's going to have to either Google that crap. So, or Fat Elvis is going to have to send them to me every week. But
Chris Sharp, there's your reloading joke.
He's not here to defend himself either.
That's the best time to kick him.
there you go. There's your joke, Fat Elvis. 111. So, thanks to everybody who joined us on the live chat. If you liked what you saw, please give us a like. If you didn't like what you saw, then give us a dislike. One of the things I can tell everybody is anytime you've got any product problems with any of the especially the major manufacturers in the game, call them. The worst they're going to say is no, we can't do anything for you, which you're probably figuring before you call them anyway. But if you never pick the phone up and call them, or grab your computer and send them an email, you're not going to find out for sure.
That's on you if that's the way it happens.
Yeah, there's a lot of amazing customer service in this industry. So.
Well, that's one thing about it, but they're so competitive that's one of the things they have to do is have good customer service. I mean, when I say they, I mean all of them. Doesn't matter if they're blue, red, green, gold, orange, brown, black. Doesn't matter. They're all competing with each other.
Yep. So.
And it's one of the things that separate the men from the boys, the sheep from the goats.
Sheep from the goats? Where the hell did you come up with that crap?
That's a biblical alliteration.
No, it's not.
No. Don't you go there either.
Oh, good grief. Anyway, on that note, thanks to everybody that sends us an email at reloadingpodcast@gmail.com or leaves us comments in the show notes. Oh, my goodness. Thanks to everybody that swings over to firearmsradio.tv and hits the affiliate links for Brownells and Amazon. And a special thank you to all of our Patreons. Grateful for all of our current and past Patreons. Just thank you to everyone.
Amen.
Just thanks to everybody that continues to listen weekly. Thanks to everybody that tunes in weekly for the chat and adds to the show. We record Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central it's on YouTube. If you want to pop in and say hi. So, we're trying to make sure that some of the shenanigans don't make it to the audio. Yeah, Jim, there's a better metaphor for you. Danielle Anderson said, or the wheat from the chaff. That's a better metaphor for you. And on that note, keep your brass shiny.
Keep your powder dry.
Support the Second Amendment. Best way you can do that, take
Squeeze the
someone shooting.
trigger.
Take someone shooting.
Good night, all.